This is gonna take crackerjack timing, Wang.
Total concentration. You ready, Jack?
I was born ready.
Welcome back to the channel. This is Wes, and today I'm going to talk about Batman 87, the second issue in James Tynion's new Batman run. There is a change to the art team this week. Out is Tony Daniel, who still does the cover art, but in is Guillem March for the interiors. Now, he does a good job in this Batman comic. His art is fine, but why can't DC keep an artist on for an entire story arc? It's distracting. It detracts from the writing. It just sucks that there can't be some continuity on one single story these days. It just feels like DC wants to take every terrible page out of the Marvel playbook these days. Please, DC Comics, keep your artists on for the entire story arc. I would prefer you just keep them on for the entire run. You know, give me 12 issues of Tony Daniel on Batman. Now, I know you're not going to do that, but give me 4. Can I have 4? 1 is ridiculous in my opinion. Now that we got that out of the way, in this comic, Batman is operating behind the 8 ball. He's constantly a step behind whoever's orchestrating this plan that sent 5 assassins into Gotham in issue 86 that Batman dispatched and captured. And that is a majority of what this story is. One of my disappointments in this comic is that it drops any reference to Bruce's grief over Alfred. That was the best aspect of issue 86, finally getting some character progression from Bruce Wayne after the loss of Alfred. Hopefully James Tynion revisits that aspect of the story very soon. Just one thing before I get into all the details of this comic and what I thought about it. I think Tynion's Batman run is going to be severely overrated just because of how bad King's was. This is an okay comic, but it's not really good and it's definitely not anywhere close to great. It's just okay. Do I recommend it? Yeah, sure. But this is a very light recommend. This is bordering on you can skip it territory. It's nothing as bad as Tom King's Batman run in my opinion, but it ain't great either. With that, let's get into the details in today's comic book review. As I mentioned earlier, Guillem March is the artist this issue, and he's pretty good, but a significant, noticeable step back from Tony Daniel. I gotta talk about the worst thing about the art in this comic first, and it's his depiction of the Riddler. I hate it. He appears to have kyphosis, he basically has a hunchback, he's severely emaciated. I don't know what it is with modern DC artists that just want to destroy the character and look of Riddler. I don't know why they did this. I think it might have something to do with Year the Villain. I know he had a one shot, I think, but this sucks. I don't like it at all, and it's kind of gross. I also don't really like his version of Batman's cape. I know it sounds like a little thing, but Guillem March renders his cape as really ruffled. It doesn't really look right to me. Some people might like it. Not really my thing. I will say his depiction of the Catwoman is great. The suit is very reminiscent of Michelle Pfeiffer's suit from the Batman Returns movie. I think it's great. Catwoman looks like $1 million in this comic, so good job, Guillem March. I also think his Penguin is really good. He's pretty grotesque, but the Penguin's supposed to be grotesque, and I think it really fits the character. I like it. I think he does a good Penguin. Another thing that he does really well, I really like the way he does establishing shots. They're not huge, they don't take up whole pages. Guillem March has a good idea how to use economy of space, and he has a nice establishing shot, but he leaves plenty of room for the more important scenes in the comic. I'll also say the action scenes in this are really exciting. They're very dynamic, especially the chase scene at the very end. It's a lot of fun to look at and very well executed. Overall, like I said, it's a step back from Tony Daniel. I'll give the art 3.5 out of 5. I also don't think the characterization from James Tynion is as good in this issue as it was in Batman 86. One of the first things we learn is Bruce Wayne has donated a new police headquarters so he could install the new black block high security facility for the worst of the worst criminals in Gotham City. He and Lucius designed it, installed it, and it's basically got every security protocol they could think of put into it. They basically designed it so Batman and his family couldn't escape. I'm going to be honest. This design and this idea is insanely impractical. It appears to be a violation of the constitutional rights of the characters being held in this prison. It's cruel and unusual. You can't You can't strap people to an iron suit on a wall and just leave them there. They would deteriorate to nothing in a matter of weeks. If he's going to do this, Batman might as well kill them while he's at it. So I don't like it. I don't think it really fits the character. I think Tynion might have overthought this idea a little bit too much. Also, later in the comic, the 5 assassins led by Deathstroke break out of the prison very easily, making Bruce and Lucius look kind of stupid. So I'm going to say this was a bit of a miss in my opinion. One thing that Tynion does do that's pretty effective is he works to further establish the Batman-Lucius Fox relationship. There's a nice quippy banter between the two while Batman is outperforming his duties. We learn that Lucius is watching his back 24/7. He's got a surveillance center in his home, and he's there for the Batman. Maybe not quite like Alfred, but he's trying to help fill that huge void in Batman's life, and he's the new eyes and ears on Gotham for Batman. But this does also get into one of the things I don't really love. Tynion is relying way too much on technology so far in the first 2 issues. Last week was the Batwalker, and the ridiculous Bat Shadow drones that somehow caught those villains. It made no sense. The drones were just projecting shadows on a wall, and I didn't buy it for a second. And this week, it's the Bat Shot. I kind of get the feeling that James Tynion is a bit gun-shy playing with Bruce, not really wanting to add too much characterization, so he's relying way too much on technology. Hey, look, what new gadget can I put in this week? What new unpractical thing can I build for Bruce and Lucius Fox to add into the story so I don't have to play with Bruce or give him any characterization or any development or maybe flesh out the character at all? At least that's the way it feels to me. Now, Tynion might be handcuffed a bit. We know this is going to be a very short run on Batman. We know that Luke Fox will be taking over the mantle of Batman pretty soon, so maybe James Tynion isn't supposed to be playing with Bruce very much. But I do think shooting Bruce out of the Batwalker with a railgun while he's basically on a street luge is a bit crazy, even for Batman. But I hope this isn't one of the tropes that Tynion's going to use where it's a new gadget of the week bit, because I can already see it's going to get old for me. But how do you guys feel? Do you like the new gadgets? I think it's a bit much. As far as the villains go, I don't like this new crazy Riddler at all. It's not just body horror. He's crazy. He's basically lost his mind. And I think it really detracts from the character. James Tynion's characterization of the Penguin is actually pretty good. He's really scary. He seems like an absolute maniac, to be completely honest. We also learn that Penguin is aware that the 5 hitmen are just the first stage of a big, elaborate plan. Apparently, it's a plan that he had something to do with, but we're not really sure because apparently Catwoman planned it, but maybe he stole it from her, but somehow he thinks this is his plan, and he's not happy someone else is enacting it. At least that's how I read it. This is the first time we hear the name The Designer. Apparently, this is the new Batman villain that will be introduced in March. And he is the big bad orchestrating all of this. This new foe is very well organized. Deathstroke is able to count down to the second when the doors open in the prison as the Designer executes their escape. And this is all leading to the second phase of the plan, which should start rolling out next week. As far as characterization goes, there are a lot of misses in this comic book, but it also hits on a few key areas as well, most notably the Batman-Lucius Fox relationship. In my opinion, not as good as last week. I'll give James Tynion's characterization in Batman 87 3 out of 5. As far as the plot goes, this comic is deliberately paced. It is a pretty slow read. There are some odd reveals like Cheshire's face being clay. How did Batman discover that? He just knew it apparently. This comic is full of exposition via dialogue, which is weird because by the time the issue is complete, you're still not really sure what's happening. You know something's happening. You know that Batman is behind the 8 ball, like I said earlier, but you're not really sure what or why it's happening. The good news is Batman is being manipulated throughout the comic, but he's not presented as a complete fool, other than his prison failing immediately. I know that's more characterization, but it also bleeds into the plot as well. The story feels interesting overall, but it definitely needs to pick up the pace and start providing some details to make this a little bit more interesting and a better read. I'll give the plot 3.5 out of 5. For the last word, Guillem March's art is good, but it's definitely a step back from Tony Daniels. I dislike everything about the Riddler in this comic, from the art to the characterization. If this is what you want to do with him, just kill him off. There are plenty of body horror characters in Batman's rogue gallery. You don't need to turn the Riddler into one of them. Penguin is probably the highlight of this comic. I like the way that he's rendered in the art, and I also like the way that James Tynion writes the character. The other highlight would be the fleshing out of the new dynamic between Bruce and Lucius. We don't get a ton of it, but the small bit we do get is well executed. I like the relationship, and I hope it becomes a bigger part of the story moving forward. The worst thing probably about this comic is that it drops the progression of the effects of Alfred's death on Bruce. That was easily the highlight of the previous issue, and I would have expected, one or two moments to hint that that's continuing on in the story, but we don't get a single mention of it in Batman 87. Tynion is doing a good job rolling out the designer. He's probably going to be a cool villain. He's several steps ahead of Batman. Apparently he's manipulating Penguin as well and the Riddler. So he's being presented as very dangerous and competent. Of course, we'll know more when the character actually shows up in the comic book, but for now he seems very interesting and could be a great addition to Batman lore. Like I said in the beginning, this is an okay comic book. It's nothing special. It's not great. It's barely kind of good. I recommend this, but this is the most tepid recommendation I could give. This is very much bordering on a don't waste your time. I wouldn't recommend it because it's not that great of a comic book. It's right on the threshold, but I'll give it a recommend. If you drop Batman because of Tom King's run, this is a different take on the character. This might be refreshing for you, and you just might enjoy it. Hopefully this will pick up next issue, but I'm personally waiting to see more. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like. I would appreciate it very much. It helps us attract more views for the channel. Subscribe for future commentary, comic book news, and reviews. And don't forget to ring the bell for notifications. If you want to talk comics, movies, and much, much more, you can follow me on Twitter at Wes_from_TC. With that, Salamat Po, and I'm out.